All right, we have Mike Maville. Welcome to the podcast today. So, Mike, we have known each other for a little bit. And if anybody wants to know what Mike does, which we'll get into some deep conversation, just go ahead and head to swfindustrial.com and take a look at all the amazing pictures of all of our workers in the shop. So, you've been into video and photography for 2 decades. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
mean, what would give you that thought?
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes, I
anybody
have.
not watch yeah, nobody, and if you're not watching the video, Mike has amazing equipment strewn around all behind him. So, like what you've been in for 2 decades, what got you into this field? What is the passion? Where'd the passion come
Oh,
from?
that is a loaded question. I mean, I've kind of always been artistic kind of my whole life.
Okay.
My mom was a home economics teacher, but she taught foods and specifically a lot of like baking and stuff. So it
Mm,
was a little more artistic in style, like cakes and um, gingerbread house stuff. I mean, she always, when she was
cool.
teaching in high school, she taught high school foods, and it was just always like crazy, like you couldn't even believe some of the stuff she was like having these kids produce in high school, like unbelievable stuff.
Really?
And my dad, for a while, was a landscape architectural designer.
Oh, wow.
And then he, for most of my life, was a truck driver, and then he did other things and went into actual government work. But so like they kind of like were always okay with me like doing artistic stuff. And so I don't know, from a young age, I remember I always had a camera. I was always drawing stuff. And
Really?
so yeah, I mean, I just like, um, I've been doing it for my whole life. I remember when I was, in like middle school, my parents had got me like a little like 110 camera. I don't know if you know what a 110 film camera is, but it had like the little spools around the side, like, and you would
Yeah.
stick it in the back of the camera, and you would never see the film ever in it. And I had a couple of those. I had a couple 35s, and I just kind of have always had a camera in my hand, always, like my whole life. Or was drawing. I used to draw comics like constantly. I was just
Wow.
always
Okay.
drawing stuff. And then I got into high school, and my art teacher, who had like a really big impression on me, pushed me into the dark room. Finally got a taste of that, even though we were in such a small school. Like I had lived in the middle of nowhere, like tiny little town in
Mm,
the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And yeah, he kind of was like, yeah, get into the dark room. We'll let you do that. He also like got me into like pottery and painting and like all kinds of stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is great. Like this is a good like I like doing it. It's fun. But I was like super interested in sports.
yeah.
I was like on I was like on everything, like soccer, basketball, track. Like
Yeah.
I just was, all the sports. And then I was also into medical stuff, and so I was in all high bio classes, AP Bio, all that stuff through high school. And then my senior year of high school, I tore my ACL in a soccer game.
Mm.
On my senior games, it's like the third game into the season.
Oh, single tear.
Yeah, and they carted me off in a wagon and off the field. And yeah, I had my ACL reconstruction surgery the day before my 18th birthday.
Oh,
And so at that point, before that, I had been interning for a doctor
okay.
who had done just kind of a little backstory. I had been doing internship for a doctor who was like he was a sports medicine doctor. He did like
Okay.
other stuff. I mean, a lot of what he focused on was like uh, functional orthopedics and surgeries
Okay.
and stuff like that. So he did a lot of knees, and so he ended up doing my surgery on my knee. And so I'd been in there seeing people like go through things, and then when I had to actually go through it myself and go through the pain and
Yeah.
the the length of time it took me, and I mean this is back in the 90s. Surgeries were way different then, and
Recovery was a lot different
recovery
then.
was, I mean, I was in this like machine that was like moving my knee for me for a month. It was the
Oh,
craziest thing. And, I went through it and I was like, I don't know if I can see people go through that as a job. And at
Wow.
that point, I switched careers, like what I was going to do as a career. It was like one of those forks in the road where you see yourself like you're going one direction and then something happens and you're like, nope. And from that point on, I was like, nope, I'm getting enough traction on art and photography and stuff. I'll focus on that. And I did, and then I went to a couple of different schools and got accepted to a few places. I ended up going to a college near Philadelphia called Antonelli. It was
Hmm.
art and photography school, and um, they accepted me actually under both programs because I showed two portfolios.
Nice.
But I ended up going for graphic design, oddly enough. I did not go
You
down the
got the
photography
gamut.
route. Yeah, I didn't go down the photography route. At that point, people it was like a weird time because digital photography and digital like graphics were starting to like really become like a thing. And, I had teachers and people around me that were just like, yeah, like that's where the jobs are going to be, graphics, like do that. And
Right.
so I was like, and even the people at the college were just like, yeah, like both portfolios are strong, but like your graphic, like you have a really good eye for design. Like we suggest you go that direction. So I went that direction. Go through school, graduate, come out, get a job. Not in the field. Uh, so I was at that job for about 6 months. It was in printing, so not
Oh.
completely out of the gamut, but I wasn't. I was doing like quality control. I was like not in
Slowly
graphics,
dying.
or I was just dying every day. It was terrible. But I learned a lot about printing. So that moved me to my next job where I was doing. So then I get another job where I'm actually doing photo manipulation work. So I'm
Okay.
back in the field, kind of. So this job was awesome. Local magazine here that was a national magazine, but it was based locally here in Lancaster. So I moved from Westchester to Lancaster, um, and yeah, like that really clicked. Started clicking,
Okay.
doing more photo editing work and a little bit of design stuff, but mostly photo editing. And then I was like, my roommate at the time had picked up a camera and he's showing it to me, this digital camera. I hadn't picked up a camera in a while at that point.
Yeah.
Nothing. I just hadn't, and it wasn't on my radar. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me take a look. And he showed it to me, and I was like, wow, this. I mean, this is like 1999, 2000 ish, somewhere in there.
Sure.
Infancy of digital photography, and I had film background. I've been doing it for quite a while in high school, and I was just like, all right, I need to get my hands on one of these. So I saved up, got my hands on a camera, went to a friend's wedding, and took a few photos. I mean, I was not the photographer. I was just like an audience member, of my friend's wedding.
Blowing it up.
I took a few photos, and they were like loved the photos I took more than the photographer they had. And at that point, I was like,
Idea.
maybe I got something here.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know how to edit photos. That I've been doing that for a job, so I can do that. If I need to, if I can compensate for the lack of knowledge I had in photography by editing, and
Sure.
I can study up on photography and do all that stuff. Um, so I kind of started a business at that point doing weddings and family portrait photography. Did that
Wow.
for
Is that where MM Visuals started?
So at that point it was Michael Maville Photography.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew zero about business. Zero. Like I hadn't
That's how
taken
everybody starts, Mike.
no business courses. I mean, in college I had like marketing courses, so I understood like what marketing was, and I understood like the people I was trying to acquire as
Sure.
clients. So I could understand how to like talk to people and try to get them to like really um, understand where I'm coming from and what I'm doing. And I had a couple of mentors that I was kind of looking up to as photographers. So I had someone kind of like showing me some stuff, and then
Mm.
I was trying to acquire more and more people as I would shoot more and more weddings and stuff. So that's kind of
Yeah, that's a couple interesting things there because I've been with you on a shoot at SWF. One thing that really stands out, hearing the story about your mom and being a teacher, like the one thing I noticed, especially in construction, I'm sure that you've seen this maybe in other industrial construction settings, but they're not they're not easy pictures to take because the audience always isn't like they're not clamoring to get in front of the camera, but you make people feel really comfortable, and then once you show them the first picture and how badass it looks, instantly everybody's like, all right, I'm in, right?
yeah.
But you have to make people comfortable to that point, and I think you're really good at that. I'm wondering if that came from maybe, I don't know, your mom obviously was good with children and good with people, so
Yeah, so I get a little bit of that teacher in me, and I can talk to it. The one thing that I kind of look back on, when I was in college, I took a public speaking course,
mm,
and I would say before that public speaking course, I was pretty shy. I, it was tough for me to like talk, even just a group of peers to just
yeah.
speak up. It wasn't me. But I took this public speaking course, and I look back on that, and I'm like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Ever since, like, I don't know, I don't even honestly remember my teacher's name, but she was fantastic. And she impressed upon us, she didn't care what we said. She said, get up and say whatever you have to feel comfortable. And just realize that, that's going to be you. So you'd have
Mm,
people get up and, I mean, just like swearing for the whole thing they're saying. That obviously was not me. But it helped me get out of my box and learn how to like speak in front of people. So, you know, that mixed with where I'm from, the small little town, having that kind of like gritty, everyday people,
yeah.
workers, like I get those people because that's where I'm from. That really helps me to kind of come just to get on anybody's level. Anybody, I'm kind of a chameleon in that way. I feel like I can kind of mix into kind of any situation,
Yeah.
and specifically like situations like where at SWF, like I mean, I grew up with guys that just like that. My dad worked at a shop. My stepdad worked at a shop, and then so like I've got, I know what makes them tick, and I can kind of like make that connection a little quicker, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the comfort level went, it was obviously a lot of nerves going into it, but then once they saw some of the results and then seeing it on the website and the calendar and everything, it just, it makes people go crazy for it because they're awesome. They look so, whenever you make someone look extremely badass, like it's you want them over, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny to that point. Like when I've been trying to outshine myself for a long time and outshine where I'm
Mm,
from, even though I love my background and where I grew up and where I'm from. But even when I was there, I was always looking like I need to get to X big city. I need to like
mm,
I was looking at magazines that were way outside of my range. And I was always trying to figure out like how do I get my stuff to look like that?
okay.
And I was watching a lot of photographers, like international and national photographers, trying to figure out what they're doing specifically to get their stuff to where it's at. And so I had that my mentor photographer I told you about. Kind of he one thing he impressed upon me was go through magazines that you like and look at the kind of trying to read. Here's how you read the light and what they're doing. Here's how you read to kind of figure out what lens they're using. Here's how you read how to kind of backtrack a photo basically, and pick it apart to figure out what they did so that I can replicate it and start to learn my style. And then my style becomes, unique to me. And like when I show people my stuff, that's when they're just like, oh, wow, that's great. And I'm just like, because I've been doing my style now for, I like to say probably about 10, 12 years, maybe 15
Yeah.
tops, because it took me a good 10 years to get a style. Like it takes a
Yeah,
while,
I bet.
but
You mentioned about magazines, and then I think of like, do you think you would have gotten to a style or to where you wanted to land personally faster with YouTube and the information that's available online now versus really having mentors and things like that. Like I went and taught myself how to video edit just because it's something I wanted to do, and I did it online. So with the things that are available, I know photography is huge on YouTube, and the understanding of it and the free classes and free information that's out there is got to be so much different than what you were going through and picking apart back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. I know the kids have it easy these days, don't they?
I mean, obviously mentors were amazing, but like you can find mentors just by putting it in a scroll bar right now, and you could just
Yeah.
find everything. It's pretty crazy.
So I did two types of kind of threefold. So I would look at national magazines, that caught my interest stylistically
Mm,
and professionally enough to kind of try and understand what they were doing. I would also buy magazines, actually a lot of UK magazines that were photography
okay.
magazines, so I could learn techniques and learn stuff that way. And then I was also buying books, photography books
Mm,
from other photographers I was finding. And at that point, there were a lot of, it was kind of infancy of podcasting. And so there were a few
okay.
podcasters I was listening to. And there wasn't like YouTube, obviously, or things like this where it was like visual interviews. So people weren't able to like do stuff like that. But, there were a couple of, there was this one specific podcast that I loved. It was called Tips from the Top Floor. And it was this guy from Germany who literally lived on the top floor of like this apartment complex, and that's why it was called Tips from the Top Floor. But he was a really good photographer, and he always put out like um, things to try out for the week, and he would explain how to do it. No visuals, obviously, and
Wow.
and then he would be like, then he would have people send in photos, and he would put them up in a gallery so people could see what they were doing. So I
That's
learned,
brilliant.
yeah, it was fantastic. So I learned a lot of
He
that.
must have been very good at explaining.
He was, and he was like interesting to listen to. So like
Yeah.
I was always super engaged with his stuff, and I honestly like just like a year ago, I had a mug I bought from him, a coffee mug.
Early merch.
Just like last year, I had to get rid of it because the logo had faded off of it. It was like my favorite mug, and I was like, well, there's no logo on it. I might as well just get rid of it.
That's a brilliant story. Oh
Mhm.
man,
So
what a
that's how I learned a
gem.
lot of that stuff. But I mean, you can find um, there's plenty of photographers. People, I mean, you can search for free on YouTube. I find it better use of time to if there's something I want to learn. I'm in a position where I'm gonna pay for it.
Sure.
So there's a couple of photographers I follow. One I actually do pay for monthly training. So
Okay.
I'm constantly learning at this point in my career. Um, but back in the day, I was buying magazines and books. Now people can buy visual tutorials. So the visual tutorials might be a little quicker and easier to get to where you want to get to, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's still kind of the same process. You know what I mean? It's just a little quicker.
Yeah. No, that's really good. With the MM Visuals business, and which
hmm
was, broken up into your full name in the past, what was the hardest part? And you said you were very novice to business in general. What was the hardest part of that, thinking back on that, of building the business side?
Um, well, the hardest part was stepping out and doing it on my own. Because
Yeah.
when I had it as Michael Moville Photography, I was working in a magazine full time. I was still doing photo manipulation work, and at one point, I left that company, went to another company to be a graphic designer, came back to that company, that magazine, and stayed there for another 10 years. Um,
Mm.
and while I was there, I ended up taking over the photography studio and running that for those 10 years that I was there,
Wow.
basically. And then I ended up leaving that magazine to go to another magazine. So during that 10 years, I was still doing weddings and family portraits and stuff on the side. So I was
Whew.
working two full jobs basically. I would work 40 to 50, sometimes 60 hours a week at the magazine. And then I was shooting weddings on the weekends and family portraits in the evenings. So, I mean, I was working, I would be up until 2, 3 in the morning editing
Oh
stuff.
my goodness.
And it was crazy because like I have a really good photographer friend. His name is Olay. He's local here in Lancaster, and he shoots a lot of events and stuff. But back in the day, he was shooting weddings mostly, like I was. So we became really close, and we ended up we would. like it was infancy of this type of thing as well. But we would be on our computers talking, having a little visual up of each other at like 2 in the morning editing. Excuse me, I'll take some Civil War,
Yeah, you're good. Oh
but
man. Just
so I was doing that for 10 years. Left that magazine, went to another magazine, and at that point, that magazine was a little more. So the first magazine I was at for 10 years, it was um, basically like small local advertisement stuff,
okay.
mom and shop pizzas, car washes,
Sure.
kind of stuff like that. It was just, I don't know. It was great foot in the door. It gave me a great experience to shoot a lot of different things. I mean, I would shoot jewelry in one day. I would shoot for a food store another day. I would shoot for a pizza shop another day. It was like all over the place.
Okay.
Plus weddings, they're their own thing with shooting completely different stuff all day long. Um, so I left that magazine, went to the other magazine. The other magazine was a higher end, hyper local magazine that focused on kind of building the brand of a town.
Okay.
And so it was advertorial style ads. I mean, the pages were paid for like an ad, but they were a little bit more story driven.
Wow. Okay.
So advertising, advertorial. So, we spent a little more time trying to figure out what the story was for the book magazine, and for each individual client for their pages. So when we would go to the photo shoot, we knew what we were going to shoot going in. We knew it was going to be a
Mm,
specific um, style. We knew what if the book had like some type of direction to it, we were going to shoot for that. We also had editorial pages in the book, so we would shoot editorially as well, for some of that stuff. So I got a lot more in the realm of that, and it was at an agency, so I was shooting agency clients as well for marketing and branding purposes.
wow.
So it was a lot of work. I mean, I was shooting in that magazine. We had When I started there, we had 7 different locations, and I shot all 7 by myself. Dropped down to 5
Jeez.
by the time I left. One of them is in South Carolina. It was just a lot of work. So the biggest challenge for me, going back to your original question, how to split down to what I have now, which is Visuals, I realized that it wasn't just photography I wanted to do. I'd started doing video. So I thought to myself, where do I want to eventually take this business? I wanted to take it and do more than just photography. Photo, I could see video, the writing on the wall. With that coming on, I ended up immediately taking my drone pilot's license and got that 7 years
Nice.
ago. So I knew that was going to be a part of it. I had other thoughts of stuff I wanted to do. Just hasn't worked out yet, or I'm just not really interested in moving that direction anymore. Like
Sure.
hiring a graphic designer and stuff like that. Like like video editor, and although a video editor is still on the table, I'm considering possibly hiring people. But so like I changed the name from photography to visuals specifically because of those reasons, and just shorten it to just because you already asked me what my last name was and how to say it. So I know it's tough. It's not the easiest thing. So I just chopped it to Visuals. That was a little easier. And that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah. No, that I'm sure that leap into so one thing that pops out to me there is your diversity of knowledge is so wide. Um,
That's an
and,
understatement.
and and it's pretty much because you just never said no, right? So, and I think about my own career and yes, and you just don't say no. I did a lot of the fire drills. I was all over the country just because I wanted to learn as much as possible. And I think that's probably paying dividends for you nowadays where you're not afraid of really anything because you probably experienced a lot from your profession.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not being able to say no to stuff,
Good and bad.
it's a double-edged sword for sure. Um, However, like you said, like I've learned a lot, and one of the things I've taken from that, honestly, is that a lot of what I do for clients is the same, because even though
Mm,
clients are different, it's just figuring out what makes it what I'm going to do works for that specific client. I'm still trying to find photos and videos and visuals that are going to make their business shine. It's just figuring out how to
Sure.
get there. But I mean, basically, I'm trying to figure out who their audience is, what's going to make them look best, what style is going to work best for them, and I can shoot and do different styles. So I have my own specific look that I like, but I'm not going to not shoot something in a style that works better for a client if I feel like soft lighting on whatever it is going to work better than them than hard lighting. I'm not going to stop and say, well, I can't shoot that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, this is not me.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it look best for that client. So,
Mm. So you touched on a little bit there. I'm just wondering about like your creative process, which you were kind of explaining a little bit there. Like, how do you go from concept to like your actual shoot day and your execution? Like, what does that look like?
yeah, I mean, that's, it depends on a few
Okay.
things. One of the biggest factors is if I'm working with an agency. So agencies like you work with that I've found, that have
Yeah. With
become
Synapse. Yep.
friends with you through Synapse. A lot of times agencies, you all the time have their own creative direction that they're going to go in for clients. Bobby, for you, wanted to go in a specific direction. He had an idea in his head of what he was looking for. I had meetings with
Yep.
him to kind of figure
Yep.
out what that looked like. And he also entrusted me with um, coming up with a style and what I thought it could look like and presenting
Sure.
that to him. So sometimes I get agencies that let me do that. Like they trust me, they know my style. They're like, we think your style would be great with it. I mean, do you have any different things you'd want to do, or what would you come back with for this client? And I look up the client, and I figure out what works for them and what industry they're in, and kind of figure out, a lot of. I do a lot of deep dives into clients to try and figure out, visually what I think will work best for them. And so then I would present that back to the agency. And if it's working with a client, a lot of times it's in the proposal. I'm upfront, like, here's what I think
Mm.
would work best for you. So at that point, I'm telling just straight into the client, and they're trusting me because they found me through however means, and I'm not going through an agency to kind of like soften that,
Yeah.
and give their perspective as well. It's just like they're trusting me to be like, this is what's going to work best for your thing. So, for example, last year I had a client that I've been working for a few years, and they came to me and they were like, "Look, we want to do a big set of video stuff next year." And I said, "Okay, great." And they're like, "Here's everything about our business." And I was like, "Well, I know a lot of this because I've been shooting for you for a while." And they're like, "Do you have any thoughts?" We're kind of like thinking about doing like a lot of videos, enough to push out once a week, and then maybe some longer form stuff once a month and once a quarter, stuff like that. And I thought about it for a while, and I was like, look, you've got four divisions of your business. I said, here's how many we can do. We can kind of like base it around monthly, showing that portion of the business and break it up into, you know, 4 months, 3 times a year for those four segments of your business.
Yeah.
And they loved it. So, like, coming up with that type of stuff, I kind of like have to dive into the business a little bit
Sure.
to kind of really understand, what their business is. It's a lot of like stuff that the agencies would be doing, um, creative agencies and marketing agencies on figuring out what's going to work best, for marketing for that specific business. And I,
Mm.
some people, they hear terms marketing and branding and PR, and whatever. And like I try to tell people, like, marketing and branding are two completely different things. Like, branding is what you're what people look at as your business. Marketing is that information to like get it out to the public. So like two
Yeah.
completely different things. So if you have branding, great. I can work off of that branding to kind of get a feeling for photos and video, and then that turns into the marketing pieces. Um,
Yeah.
so if I'm shooting for branding, though, then we have to know, what the look and feel you're going for as a company
Sure.
is, and so like that's a whole different kind of thought process on kind of how I go about figuring out what the story and look and feel is for what I'm shooting.
No, it's really good to know too, especially if any audience members are listening and are interested. So it's like you can work with in-house marketers, right? Because they'll have a plan and they may already have a brand and what they're looking for. You could work with owners or CEOs or executives who are saying, "Listen, I need to get a new facelift." Or you could work with outside marketers like we did, where they're telling you, "Hey, we need you to come in. This is the kind of shoot, but also have a little bit of creative you have some creative freedom in that process as well. So that's yes, you're definitely multi-pronged there.
Yeah. And
You got it all.
my wife does writing and public relations and
Okay.
marketing. So this stuff just, it's like it enveloped in our house. Like we just are
You
constantly
live
talking
it.
about, we do live it. It's like constant. We're just always
Yeah.
talking about clients and like, interesting stuff on how we could, and like we're bouncing stuff off each other for different clients that aren't even ours, just to kind of like, because she has her own business, I have my own business, so it's different when you're in a company and you can bounce stuff off other people, but just me
Sure.
and her, so we're constantly bouncing this stuff off each other.
Your, your dinners must just be idea factories.
Dinners, like we're just like when I go up after this, like we'll probably chit chat about something. I'm sure at some point about a client here or there. I'm sure we're gonna talk about this too, but you know,
That's really cool. I'll tell her if she ever wants to come on. So
absolutely.
technology, some of the tools, your drones, which you spoke about, Adobe Creative Suite, all that kind of stuff. How has that
Mhm.
really changed, from where you started to what you're doing now? What are three technology you could think of that are like, yeah, this definitely transformed my business?
That's a great question. Wow. I would say, I mean, first thing, Photoshop. Um,
Okay.
I've been using Photoshop, like people. So Photoshop now, it's called the Creative Suite. I don't know what
Yeah.
version it's at, 12, 15. I don't even know. They just push out, updates, and it's like who knows what
Yeah.
they're at. Um, I was using Photoshop since 1993 in version 3.
Wow.
It was just after it switched from version 2 to version 3. It was like version 2.5 or something. That's when I first picked it up with version 3 in 1993 in high school. My high school art teacher got a copy and was showing it to us.
Wow.
Photoshop, if I didn't have Photoshop in my life from that point on, like would be completely different. I told you how like I was able to like edit stuff to make up for my lack of photography knowledge, like back when I was
Yeah.
shooting weddings. I mean, if I didn't have that, I mean, who knows?
Hmm.
So Photoshop, a lot of people give Adobe crap for whatever reason nowadays because they're like, oh, there's this free thing out there or there's this cheaper thing out there. Yeah, well, Adobe did it first and they've been doing it for best for the longest time. So
I know.
whatever. And the other thing is people talk about it being like, oh, that's not real photography. Well, actually, every piece of Photoshop, originally at least, there may be some new things in there with AI and whatever, but like even up till a few years ago, everything that was in there was a tool based on a tool that you could actually use in a dark room. I don't know if a lot of people know
Hmm.
that, but there's a lot of stuff that you could do in a dark room that ported right over to Photoshop.
So they
You know,
digitized the darkroom.
they digitized the dark room. It's exactly what they did. So there
Wow.
were darkening tools and lightening tools and tools to smudge things. You could write and draw on your film strips if you wanted. You could do that on the papers in the dark room. You could change emulsifications on liquids, and I mean there's so much you could do in a dark room if you knew how to do it. And they ported that information over to a program. That's all they did. So
Wow.
you know I, I I love Photoshop. I have always loved Photoshop. I don't use it as much anymore. I use Lightroom a lot, mostly because it's
Okay.
quicker and has better tools for kind of like organization and things like that. Because I shoot a lot. Um,
Yeah.
when I was shooting weddings, I was shooting 3,000 photos in a day.
Whew.
Now I'm at around, depends on the day, but 1,000 to 1,500 probably. So a little less than a day, but still, it's a decent amount of photos. I was at a barbecue for Fourth of July the other week, and I over the weekend I shot 400 photos, and I told my cousin that, and he's like, "That's a lot of photos," and I was like, "Not really, not for me." So I don't know, but the other things I'd say a second one out of the three would definitely be video being installed in still camera, digital cameras. I think
Not having to carry two different pieces of equipment. Is that what you mean?
yeah, well, the hybrid cameras allow me to do a lot of things quicker.
Okay.
And, just the quality that's coming off the new cameras nowadays for both video and stills is just, it's
It's
really
crazy.
good. It's so good.
I mean,
I
look at these
mean,
phones.
the phones are great. My issue with the phones, I mean, they're getting better, but they're still, let me just show you real quick. So these little tiny dots
I'm
on
sorry for
here.
making you miss Deadpool
No,
tonight.
oh, sorry, I forgot that was on there. Sorry, nobody doesn't like Deadpool there. These little dots right here are, unless they make them the size of the phone, there's
Yeah,
still physics, limitations in physics to what can be created through these. There is,
gotcha.
compared to this.
Right.
I'll take this off of here and I'll show you. So the bottom part of this is just a hood. Is about the same size as the width of the glass on the front of my lens. See what I mean? So physics say that there's only a certain amount of things that light can do, and if you only have certain size lenses, there's still only so much that they can do. They do take great stuff. I'm not going to knock them. I mean, if I'm in a pinch, for sure, I've used my phone for stuff in a pinch.
Yeah.
Um, but I can't ever see a day that will only rely on these. Not for
Okay.
professional photography and video. I don't see it. It's there's certain things that I wish camera manufacturers would look at with these and put into their technologies. And it's starting to happen finally. On Canon just announced two new cameras last week, and so I saw one thing on there, and I was like, okay, now they're finally getting somewhere.
Here we go.
Here we go. So, but like this camera right here is it's a cinema based camera. So just this part right back here, this body part is, this big.
Yeah.
This here is also a cinema camera. This entire thing. So they're getting smaller, which is fantastic, and they're lighter. Um, and this thing over my shoulder here on this side is a gimbal,
Yep.
which allows me to just walk around and handhold video stuff. So, the video realm being pushed into the still realm is great. I will put a hold on that with a caveat that photographers and videographers are two completely different people in the mind. I know that the
You
camera
hear that,
equipment,
audience? They are not the same
they're not the
person.
same thing, and it's a lot of work to do both. Your
Okay.
headspace is two completely different things. If you think about it, like photography, you're literally trying to stop motion for a purpose. You're trying to stop
Oh,
it and tell a story. Video, you're trying to create motion to tell a story over a certain amount of time. It's two completely different thought processes. Yes, you're maybe
yeah.
trying to get to the same point of like telling a story about, for me, it's commercial businesses, well, for
Mhm.
whatever you're doing, but it's two different ways of thinking how to get there. And so I think that's what a lot of people don't understand when they were like, yeah, can you come out and shoot some photos? Oh, while you're here, can you shoot some video clips for us? I mean, if you want to tack on another 2 days, sure. Great.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of like mental capacity to try and parse those two things out to really, you got to separate them, because if you don't, like, you're not going to, one of them's going to suffer.
You
It's
get
just
lost in the sauce. Yeah.
one of them's going to suffer. You're going to, if I'm being super creative, shooting stills for one thing, like I'm just like, all right, I just need to shoot some video clips, and I'm not focused on it to get
Mm.
something super creative. It just, and if it's the opposite, if you're shooting video, like, oh, this is going to be great. We'll get a cool cinematographic look here, and you're like, oh, I just need to take some stills to just get something. Uh, It's just how it is. There are very few people that can do both at the same time and really think outside the box. I try now and again. I can hit it, but it's pretty hard
Mm.
to do. So that would be the second thing: putting video in these still cameras. Third thing is, you mentioned drone. I mean, I as soon as I left that second magazine, one of the first things I did was looked into getting a drone. One of the biggest reasons is that I wanted to do it is because I have a huge fear of heights. I have a huge fear of heights. I hate heights. And anytime anybody asks me to go up and shoot something on top of a building. I like it freaks me out. Um,
Sure.
and I was like, I love seeing things from above. I hate going up high in buildings. So I was like, I need to look into this. And, it has added to my photo and video repertoire
Mm,
as far as what I can do. But that's kind of all I look at it as. It's another one of these, it's another camera.
yeah.
Like, it just, at this point, that's what it is to me. It adds another element of creativity and angles for things I can shoot. And um, I'm not like, I'm not flying drones to be a pilot. I mean, I had to take a pilot's test. That's what you have to do when you are looking to be a drone pilot and fly
Mhm.
for any purposes other than just to fly it around and have fun. You
Right.
have to take a test, and it's a lot of studying. Back when I took it, I was like, I downloaded this 900-page PDF from the FAA, studied my tail off for a month and a half because it was like $150 to take the test, and if you didn't pass, you pay another $150 to go take the test again some other time, and you had to wait like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I passed it the first time. I got an 86, and haven't looked back. Had to take it a sec.
Yeah.
Had to take the test a second time 2 years later. Had no problems passing that, and that was. And you only have to take it a second time, I believe. So,
Okay.
but those are
That's
my three
amazing.
things. Yeah, those are my three.
So, just to kind of piggyback off that, what are three things that never leave your camera bag that you always take to the job? Like, what are
A
threes that will
camera.
never know? That's a good one.
Although I've got a funny story for you about. I'll get through these. Finish your question, and I've got a funny story.
No, just what do you always take on every shoot, whether it be videography or photography?
Um, some type of light.
Okay.
I used to go on these photo walks back in the day when I was really just kind of learning and trying to figure things out. And certain things you remember about some things that people say when you're
Mm,
learning things. And we were in this little group, and this one lady was kind of shooting some portraits with a light, an off-camera light, and to that point, I had always been like, I hate flash photography. I hate, like, I just don't get it. Like, it looks terrible. But I was probably just seeing the worst of it, and I only knew how to put a flash on a camera. This person had the flash off the camera. They're using a softbox. Completely new thing to me at that point. I mean, I was probably a year
mm,
into shooting.
okay.
And the thing she said was, anybody can, literally anyone can go out and take a picture in daylight and figure it out. Anybody can just go and take that picture, and you can have somebody standing right next to you, and they can take the exact same picture. Now, if they put a light up, the person who has the ability to set that light off is going to take the picture that only they're taking and only they can come up with. The person next to them can't access that light and can never take that exact same picture. And that's how you differentiate yourself as a photographer from other photographers. And then trying to figure out what that style is that you like using the lights that you're using. Um,
Mm,
so, I really took that to heart. Like, oh yeah, like that's how I can differentiate myself. I can really start to use light to um, make my stuff look different.
okay.
And I honestly like, there's just like certain things as a photographer, you just don't know where they come from. Like, I didn't know where my like style for I love wide angle shots, like super wide
Yeah.
angle. I tend to shoot in the 17 to 70 range usually, somewhere in there. A lot of photographers are 70 above millimeter, so like that's super telephoto, like zoomed in. I'm like wide angle. I get close to my subject so I can talk to people. But I just love that look and feel, and I love harsh directional light. And I didn't know where I got either of them from until about maybe 9, 10 years ago. I was at a I was at a museum with my wife, and we're walking around this museum, and it's the Brandywine River Museum down in
Okay.
Chadsford, Pennsylvania, and the Wyeths, the Andrew Wyeth, NC Wyeth, or the Wyeth family. It's a curation of all of their artwork, and we're walking around, and I'm like, man, I love their stuff. I was like, you got to see this one thing over here, and I'm showing a couple of these, and then all of a sudden it hit me. It was sucked right back into my childhood. And I told me my mom was a teacher. She used to take me on art trips with her art teacher. She used to be the another um, person, just kind of like as a teacher to accompany the students and walk
Yeah.
around. So
A
I used to
chaperone,
go,
yeah.
yeah, chaperone. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. And so I would go with her on these field trips every year to the art museums throughout, the Northeast here. And we were at the museum. I was with my wife, and I was like, "This is where I got my style and where I love my lighting from." I was looking at
Wow.
NC Wyeth's stuff, and he was an illustrator, and he illustrated some pretty famous books. And I was looking at specifically this one painting he did of this Indian coming down through a river. And if you if you go and you look at a lot of his stuff, the light is very cinematic, and there's light coming from different angles that aren't just like straight on like front angles. Studied a lot of like Renaissance painters and things like that when I was in college,
Sure.
and it just wasn't my like thing. Some of it's okay, but it wasn't my style.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and don't get me wrong, they're amazing. But so like NC Wyeth, I was looking at it and it just like clicked with me. His stuff,
Mm.
you can see the perspective of things are really harsh from above and below the people, which means it's a wider angle field of view. And like I'm looking at it, I'm like, this looks like my stuff. And it just clicked with me that this is the stuff my mom had been taking me to see when I was a child.
Wow.
So I just kind of like hit me hard, as far as like that's where I kind of like got that from. So anyway, I was just went off the rails as far as
That's
that. But like,
awesome.
yeah, I know
No,
it's
that's good.
yeah. So, but lights definitely one thing I definitely have in my bag. Oh man, what else do I usually have? That's a very good question. Lately, as far as doing video stuff, I always have this gimbal with me.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna take the gimbal off the list. Polarizing filter.
Yes.
I have enough polarizing filters for every lens in my camera bag because I love polarizing filters.
What is a polarizing filter? And I didn't know until I started using them on my GoPro, but what does that do?
Yeah. So a polarizing filter blocks out certain wavelengths of light, leaving other wavelengths to be more bright and things like that. So like it
Yeah.
also will cut off reflections from certain things, glass and water, stuff like that. So if you're just thinking about it as a visual, like you just want to see what it does, if you have a polarizing filter, think of polarized glasses. It's the same exact thing, same
Yep.
concept. If you're wearing polarized glasses, you can see through your windshield of your car a lot clearer because it's blocking out all those reflections. The light wavelengths of that create those reflections, it's blocking them out basically and leaving you to
Yep.
see clear through to the rest of the glass. Um, but it also, if you look up the sky, on a blue sky day, like the blue will be much richer and more intense
Yep.
against the white clouds, and it will block some of the light reflected in the clouds as well, and give you like a bit more of a crunchy look to the clouds.
Mm.
So I love, man, I've loved polarizing filters for a long time. I absolutely love them. They're the best. And I use them sometimes on people. Like it'll take a sheen off of people and make their face look a little bit more soft.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
you can also use it for, if you're shooting product photography, it'll take certain reflections off of glass things or plastic bottles, stuff like that, whenever you're shooting. It's super helpful with that type of stuff as well.
Mm.
So a lot of different uses. Also, if you're just trying to stop down, and when I say stop down, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's you're trying to darken your lens,
Yes.
specifically for video and things like that. They takes a stop off of your what you're trying to do for that as well. So yeah, love that. Love polarizing filter. And a third thing, man, that is a really good question. Lighting, polarizing filter. Um, oh, you know what I've really loved lately? Um, I man, do I have one around here? I could run and get it for you quick. So I got to get it for you. Hold on, hold
All right.
on.
Yeah,
Take me
no
two
worries.
seconds. I'm still
You're
here.
good.
I can talk to you.
That's a beautiful chair.
Oh, it's not here. Dang it. It's not here. I can't find it. Anyway, um, Sorry, I'm in my studio, which is in my basement.
No, you're fine.
I used to have a bigger studio, but I got rid of it because I just didn't use it enough to pay for it. Anyway, so there's this thing. It's a battery basically, and
Okay.
it's made by a company called Newer or whatever they're called, Neewer.
Okay.
And what I love about it is it has not only USB-A and USB-C ports, and it has some 1.5 mil jacks on it.
Yep.
It's got a D-tap input uh, for running other stuff off of it. So I've plugged in my iPad, my phone, and my camera, and I had all three running off of it for hours before.
Wow.
Hours. And it's only like this big. It's
Yep.
it's a little bit deep, but it's not that big,
It's
and
it, it's like a power. It's like a power brick.
it's a power brick, but it like I've never seen one with a D tap on it before, and I need it for here. I'll show you what. Oh yeah, I found it actually. It's on my gimbal.
It was powering your gimbal.
It usually powers my video camera. So
Okay.
here it is. The nice thing is it has a little digital
Yeah.
screen on
Screen.
it.
Hmm.
But here's the USB-A, USB-C. Here's the 8 volt and 12 volt.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm like hawking this Newer battery. And this is not sponsored. Um, but here's the D-tap part. And so the D-tap goes to this little plug.
Gotcha.
And that goes to this, which plugs into my camera. So I can run
Yeah.
my
Wow.
camera off a dummy battery using this. So this camera right here, shooting video on it, if I just use a regular Canon battery that looks about like this, runs for about 25 minutes.
Mm.
I ran outside video all day for like a 10-hour shoot with this
Wow.
in the
What a
heat of
difference.
Florida a couple weeks ago. Unbelievable. Like I cannot say enough about this.
So not having to stop to change batteries and just living in the moment that whole time, you got to get so much better stuff because you never miss a moment.
I don't even have to think about power. I mean,
Yeah.
and power nowadays. I ended up just buying a second one recently during Prime Days the other day because like I can't. It's so
You
good.
can't live without it.
hmm I
That's
can't now.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's really good.
but you need to power
Um,
everything nowadays. So power would be my third answer.
Dude, I think I have a newer I think it's a wall plug, but it's like it's super amps. It turns any like regular wall amp into or wall outlet into like a super wall outlet to charge things way faster. Yeah,
Yeah,
they make amazing stuff.
their stuff is great.
Um, what trends do you see emerging in visual branding? Do you see anything that's changed since you started to now?
Yeah, trends change quite a bit.
Okay.
Depends on the field. Honestly, like I recently the past couple of years for like food and drink, it's a lot of like that hard lighting, kind of
Okay.
like soft hard lighting stuff. Um, and versus just straight soft lighting. There's like a hard shadow to the edge of it or whatever. Um, people are doing a lot more video
Okay.
recently. I'd say is kind of a trend because with the emergence and I mean, just YouTube is just taking off, but also you have like um, all of the other social medias where they have like video components now, like even
Yeah.
Instagram and stuff like that has reels and whatever else, and TikTok is just a video based platform. So like people are trying to monetize their businesses through
I think
video
LinkedIn's
on
heavy
these.
on video now already
Oh,
too.
is it? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just video is kind of the way things are going, and so I've been getting a ton more video work.
Okay.
But visually, trend wise, I'd say again, it depends. It really depends on the category of the business.
Okay.
But
So, someone who's starting out, like if you're going to talk to yourself way back when, Mike, and you're going to give yourself three tips on when
mm,
you're starting down this profession, like what are three things that come to your mind that you wish you would have known sooner, either starting as a photographer or videographer, or even starting your own business in this world? Like what would you go back and tell yourself?
I know two right off the bat. Third one's going to be a challenge. First thing, first thing would be to take business courses.
Okay.
You can always learn a trade. Business is a lot more difficult once you're in the thick of it. So that would be the very first thing I would say. Go take
Okay.
a business course. Take all the business courses.
All of them.
Because if you have a business background, think about it. You can do anything. Like you can run any kind of
Mm.
business. You understand the workings of business.
Its language is universal.
Yeah. Yep. So that would be the first thing I would say. Learn
Okay.
business. Second thing, what was I going to say? What was the question again?
Three things you go back and tell yourself
Oh
to
yeah.
learn faster.
Second thing would be to don't be afraid to quit a job and just go on your own.
Uh, invest in
It's,
yourself.
it's not really a learned thing, but it's something that
Yeah.
it's one of those. I my my brother owned his own business for like 35 years. Um, and my dad owned a couple businesses. I'd see like you know, eh, I don't know. I always had that fear in my mind of like, what if I don't make it? What if I
Sure.
don't get enough money? And I'm sure everybody has that fear, who's never
Sure.
owned a business. Um, it's kind of it's a learned thing because now at this point in my career, I mean, I owned a business for weddings and family portrait stuff for 16, 17 years, whatever it was. And then, but I always had a day job to fall back on.
Mm,
I never cut the
sure.
cord. And when I did eventually cut the cord, I've been at this now since then. It's been 2017, so 7 years. I cannot ever see myself doing anything but owning a business.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
I think my business would be in a completely different place had
Mm,
I um, quit sooner. Although I did learn a lot at that second magazine and that agency. I learned a ton there. So,
sure.
it's like,
Is it really regret?
yeah, is it really regret? Who knows?
Sure.
Um, the third thing I would tell myself is probably you don't need to buy every toy that's out there for photography.
That's a good one.
As I sit
Oh,
in all of this stuff right
that's brilliant. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. No,
because
I can see that's a
yeah.
slippery slope, Mike. I can
Mhm.
only imagine because they're bringing out new stuff literally every day.
Yeah. I was looking at those new Canon cameras that just came out last week, and I got to thinking, I'm like, it's got this and that and this, and I'm like, what am I saying? Like my other camera, that my still camera, which I don't have behind me, this is my video camera. It's my other video camera. But my other still camera is a Canon R5. It shoots 45 megapixel images. My only concern about it is it's a little questionable in the noise area when you get up in the higher ISOs. Otherwise, it is a fantastic camera. Like, what am I thinking? I don't need another camera for another 5 years.
So, are you a Canon guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although this right here over my shoulder, this is a Black Magic, but
Okay.
I needed a cinema
Yeah.
camera, and when I was looking for a cinema camera, because I needed something that didn't stop at 30 minutes
Yeah.
to shoot long form interviews, where I was doing a lot more of that. Um, and the Canons were just a little too pricey and didn't have all of the things I needed in them. And then I found this Black
Yep.
Magic. It's a Black Magic Ursa Mini 4.6K. Um, and I got it for like a steal, honestly. It was
Nice.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, but then I picked up this. This is a Canon R5C, and the video off of it. I haven't even touched this in a while. I'd like to
Mm,
sell it, honestly. Um, so if anyone's
okay.
looking for a Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4.6K.
That's awesome. What's in the future for Visuals? So do you have any like you talked about a couple different avenues or verticals that you're thinking about? Anything exciting on the horizon?
um, well, I mean, I travel a lot, so
Cool.
just more travel. I'm looking forward to that. Um, yeah, it's actually been pretty good because my wife and my daughter have been able to come with me on a bunch of stuff.
Awesome.
Like I said, with my wife having her own business, and she's just completely, virtual for what she does. She just has an office here in our house. Um, I, love to be able to travel, and they love to travel. So taking them um, to more locations is kind of what we like to do. And we found a place that we really like thanks to a client that has had me there twice. We love Sarasota, Florida. So
Yeah.
and I just sent them a proposal for another one for next year. So hopefully I'll be able to go back down next year. But yeah, anytime we get to go to a beach, my wife is like, "Yeah, we'll go."
That's awesome. I've never been to
Yeah,
Sarasota, but I've actually heard recently we've been talking about making a trip to that Tampa area because it's just so gorgeous from what we hear.
yeah. My sister lives in the Tampa area, and
Okay.
but I haven't gotten up to see her while we've been down there. But if you, oh man, Sarasota, telling you, Siesta Key Beach is.
Yeah.
I'm not a beach person, and I love Siesta Key Beach.
Okay. There you
I
go.
I
There you
actually
go.
hate the beach. I hate sand,
Yeah.
specifically, but
It's terrible for cameras.
yeah, it is. It's terrible for my hairy legs. Is what it's terrible for. Uh, Siesta Key Beach though is like walking on powder, and the sand just falls off your hairy legs. It's fantastic.
If there's an advert for Siesta Key Beach, it is right there. If you hate sand, this is the beach for you.
See, they need to hire me to come down and photograph that. I can have
I'm
an
telling
ad
you.
campaign out for them in no time.
Dude, you should just post your own video talking about how great Siesta Key Beach, and it's just the sand coming off your hairy legs. That's
Yep.
brilliant.
Yes. I'm gonna do that. I'm doing that next time I go down. I swear,
You
I'm gonna do
should.
that.
And
And
do it free and then just tag them.
yeah, I'll tag them and be like, if you'd like to pay for me to come down and shoot some other stuff, I can. I'm available.
Look how cool this stuff is.
See, like it's stuff like that that like sometimes comes out of like a bit of like comedic whatever, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like you can get some really cool, interesting, marketing material from things like that. And this day and age, people are just like, you know, there's no limit, honestly. Did you see that new
I
Burger
know.
King ad campaign? The one where they let the burger just sit out for like a
No.
year and it turned into like a moldy thing, but it was the reason they did it is because they wanted the flip side of what like McDonald's is known for, is because of Super Size Me, where their stuff didn't get moldy, and people were like, "What
Yeah.
is in that it's not getting moldy?" So Burger King came out with this new marketing set of stuff
Showing
recently,
its real food.
showing it's real food, and then it gets moldy. Brilliant, brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So
One, humor goes a long way.
yeah,
And so it's such a huge value of mine. I love humorous things and just funny stuff. So no, I'm with you. Like I love the Wendy's commercials that are really funny. I love Wendy's Twitter. They probably have one of the best Twitter. Whoever runs their social media
absolutely.
game, it's lights out. I love it. I love
Yeah,
all of it.
absolutely. But without like those visuals,
Yeah.
like those types of like interesting visuals, like these companies, where would they be? You know what I mean? Like even you think back to like the 30s and 40s and 50s advertisement, there was still photos of people enjoying themselves drinking a Coke, or
Hmm.
back in the 60s it was, people smoking on planes or whatever. I'm not saying that's what you gotta do,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, without those visuals, those companies wouldn't be able to grow. So, like, visuals are very impactful, and for marketing tools and for branding your company. And, I just feel like I'm in a good position to kind of understand lots of different companies, and figure out like what visuals are going to work for those companies, and kind of how to steer them in a direction that will, hopefully be impactful for any, clients they're trying to get, and for to build their business and things like that. So that's what I'm all about.
No, I totally agree. And I know I started out at the beginning of this, but like one, working with you was an absolute joy. And then obviously Synapse brought you in for our photo shoot. And we've actually had a couple and
Hmm.
everyone loved it. I mean, all the way the pictures came out, you could just certainly head to our website and check them out. You just made everybody look so cool. And I actually took I took all of those pictures and we packaged them into individual like folders so we could get them to the people. And some of them, like, I'm sure they have them at home on their walls. Like, that's how good some of it, because like showing yourself at work, especially in a trade, like it's just tradespeople, they have skill, right? And it's just really cool to watch them in their element. And I just think you captured a lot of that. So, I would say the experience working with you was amazing. And then you making
Thanks.
everybody feel comfortable on the photo shoot was really the biggest part for me, because it's hard to get people over that hump at the beginning.
Oh, it is. That's an understatement as well. It's hard. People,
Yeah.
you know how many times I have heard the phrase, "I hate being in front of a camera." In my career, I swear
Millions.
it's like almost every person. And
Yeah.
the very next line is usually, "Can you make me look thinner?" And I'm just like, like literally. I mean, it's everyone, and I try my best. Honestly, I try my best to make the people like. If you have somebody with a phone and they're taking your picture, that's who you got to be worried about. When I walk in with this
Yeah.
and a light like I've got above me that's lighting me right now, you shouldn't be worried about me. Like, you should know that
Mm.
I'm there to try to make you look your best. And that's my job, and I take that part of it very seriously. I'll have fun and joke around, and that's just me trying to get you to loosen up in front of the camera. But like, my job is to make people look their best and look interesting, and like,
Yeah.
I really do take that seriously. So
Yeah, it really comes through to not only just from the professional side of things of how you conduct it and everything. Because I remember right when you got to our facility, you started running across the parking lot to catch the sunrise hitting with the drone, right? To hit the
yep.
front of our building. Because you were
Hmm.
like, this is perfect. Like, I
Yeah.
got to grab him. Like, where is he going? And then I just see this, woo, right? And it
Yeah.
was one of those moments. And that's actually on the hero video, like
Hmm.
that opening scene. So like, yeah, your eye for that stuff and the passion to make stuff look really good came through. So it was really great.
You know what? I just thought of one more thing that is a cool piece of tech that I kind of have in my. It's not really my bag.
Yeah.
It's in my phone. That I if I didn't have it, like, I don't know. I love it. What's it called? Hold on. It's an app, and it is called Sun Surveyor. And I'm sure there's a bunch of different apps out there like this,
Yeah.
but it allows me to um, see where the sun is going to come across the sky, so I can figure
Yeah.
out where the shadows are going to be, when the sun's going to be, where it's going to be, when it's going to go, when it's going to come up or go down. And so, I can base a lot of my photography and videography on, if we're doing outside shots around that. So I know what I'm going to be in for.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Honestly, it literally shows you, like, it's video through your camera lens, so you're looking at, the regular world around you, but then it shows a line, an arc line of where the sun's going to
Yeah.
go all day long. It's so good.
Brilliant.
And
It's
I can
genius.
I can change the time and days on it. So if my shoot's not going to be for another month or two, I can check in a month or two where it's going to be.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so good.
That is really good. Yeah. Secret tip there for anybody getting into the field or struggling with where
Yeah,
the sun's going to be.
Sun
That's good.
Surveyor.
Yeah. Sun survey. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Also
Hmm.
not sponsored.
Nope. I wish I
Look at
was sponsored by someone.
all these sweet associate links you should be having right now, Mike.
I know.
So where can people find MM Visuals? Where can they find you? Promote yourself. What's going on?
Sure. I mean, mmavillevisuals.com. You can go to mmaville underscore visuals on Instagram and Facebook, and last name is spelled Miville. So Maville's Miville. So if you're looking for it, you can just type in Michael Maville, and it should all come up for me. Like, I have stuff pretty well done with SEO that, if you type that in, it's going to come up.
Awesome.
Type in Lancaster photographer, usually comes up under that too, as first page.
Awesome.
Worked
And
really
you're
hard
doing
at
a
that.
little bit of everything for businesses. You will come in and make your people look or your products look amazing.
Yeah, I do products, do a lot of headshots too.
Okay.
Do a lot of headshots, portrait, like corporate headshots and things like that as well. And come into businesses and put up a backdrop like this behind me. And but yeah, I also love branding, love product photography. I love, love, love food photography. I shot a cookbook
Cool.
during COVID.
Nice.
That was intense because
Yeah.
I was supposed to have an art director. and a stylist and a chef and the editor of the magazine. And it ended up just being me in my kitchen, in my house, doing it by myself. Shot
Figuring it out.
shot 50 different recipes and products during COVID. It
Wow.
literally happened. We were supposed to shoot in April 2020.
Oof.
Yep.
Nope.
Nope.
Yup. Nope.
Nope. So I'll do what it
Wow. Good
takes
for
to
you.
get things done for people. Let's say that.
Yeah. No, no doubt.
But
I think the biggest thing the takeaway, and I'm so glad you said it, was you really take it seriously to make either products or people look really the best they can.
yeah,
And that certainly comes out of your work, and it also comes out in the work when you're in actually executing the work. So
thanks. I
yeah,
try.
man, it was wonderful to work with you. Well, one, thanks for coming on. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Not everybody
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. No, this is great. No, I mean, if you're
Okay.
serious about my wife, I'll mention that to her too, because
Yeah, heck yeah.
sure
No,
she would
yeah,
love to
I'm
talk PR and marketing.
yes, I love all of that. I mean, one of the main goals for me is just learning things I don't understand. So I love talking to people about their passions because everybody can teach me something. And I'm not a big book reader. I am reading now. I'm making myself, but this is also my other form of book reading because it's easier than reading for me. So
Yeah, I'm not a big book reader, and I could probably tell you the all 5 books that I've read because that's about all I've read.
yeah, understood. Well, thank you for
Um,
coming on. And you have any closing remarks?
no, can't wait
Okay.
to go see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. Sorry for screwing that up.
no, you did it all. It's all good. I can't wait. But
Okay.
no, I hope everybody's have a great summer yourself, and hopefully we'll get a shoot in sooner or later. Get
Yeah,
back out
no,
there.
no doubt. All right. Yeah, well, thanks, Mike, for coming on. And yeah, we'll catch everybody on the next episode.
Yeah.
Thanks.